I was halfway through my morning coffee, the sunlight spilling over my silk blouse, when my phone buzzed on the marble countertop. One glance at the screen, and my stomach sank. The message wasn't just a text, it was a trigger, a flash of everything I'd tried to forget. Sorry, I accidentally dropped your laptop in the pool. My brother, Tyler, had sent it, with an emoji, like he thought it was funny. Funny. The word stuck in my throat as I stared at the image he had attached, my brand new laptop, floating half-submerged in the sparkling blue water of his backyard pool. I took a slow breath, letting the warm sun on my arms contrast the cold lump forming in my chest. Years ago, I would have panicked, yelled, maybe even cried. Now, I was Madison Blake, the woman who had quietly built her life piece by piece while keeping certain truths locked away. I sipped my coffee, letting the aroma calm me. I stepped to the window overlooking the city skyline, noticing the glint of the morning sun against the glass buildings. Every reflection reminded me of the facade I'd mastered, poised, successful, untouchable. But inside, beneath the polished veneer, there was still the Madison who had felt small, dismissed, underestimated. And now there he was, Tyler, laughing at the chaos he'd caused, or at least pretending to. My fingers hovered over my phone. I didn't respond immediately. Instead, I let the sound of the city filter through the window, the distant hum of traffic, the faint rustle of leaves in the spring breeze. I could almost hear my younger self screaming at the injustice, the recklessness, the audacity. I set my coffee down, squared my shoulders, and whispered to myself, time to face the storm. The sound of splashing water and Tyler's careless laughter pulled me back to another time, back when I was 19, barefoot on our cracked driveway in suburban Ohio, clutching a sketchbook to my chest like it was armor. Back then, Tyler was the golden boy. Star quarterback, the one everyone talked about at church picnics and graduation parties. I was just his little sister, the quiet one who stayed up late drawing designs by the window, dreaming of art school. Dad never said it directly, but his silence did the talking. When college applications came up, he'd glance over my shoulder and ask Tyler about football scholarships instead. Mom would smile tightly and say, "Sweetheart, art's a lovely hobby, but you need something real." Something real. That phrase haunted me. It was the summer before I left home, the air thick with the smell of cut grass and chlorine. I'd just saved up for my first laptop, a silver one, secondhand, but mine. I remember bringing it out by the pool to show Mom my portfolio. My hands were shaking. It was my first time showing her the designs I hoped would get me accepted into a digital art program in California. Tyler was there too, tossing a football in one hand, smirking. "You actually think anyone's gonna pay you for doodles?" he teased. "Designs," I corrected softly. He laughed, loud enough for Dad to hear from the porch. "Whatever. You'll be back here in 6 months." I tried to hold my ground, but my throat tightened. "No, I won't." Then came the splash, a blur of motion, and my laptop hit the water. I froze. Tyler's grin faded when he saw my face. "It was a joke, Mads. Chill, I'll get you another." But he never did. And Mom just sighed, muttering something about how I should have kept it inside if it was so important. That night, I sat on my bed, the faint hum of cicadas outside, tears blurring the edges of my ruined sketches. My grandmother, June, knocked softly and stepped in. She didn't say much. She just handed me an old silver locket and whispered, "Don't wait for people to believe in you, Madison. Start before they notice." That night, I made a promise to myself. I'd leave. I'd make something of my art. And one day, they'd see me, not as Tyler's sister, not as the quiet one, but as Madison Blake, the woman who built her own name. Leaving home felt less like freedom and more like walking barefoot across broken glass. Painful, necessary, unforgettable. I boarded a one-way bus to Los Angeles with 2 suitcases, a half-functioning phone, and the locket Grandma June gave me. The chain pressed against my collarbone like a reminder. Start before they notice. The first few months were brutal. I rented a shoebox apartment with water stains on the ceiling and a window that refused to shut all the way. At night, I could hear sirens echoing through the thin walls, blending with the scratching sound of my pencil on paper as I drew until sunrise. Money was tight: ramen, cheap instant coffee, and secondhand art supplies from a thrift store downtown. But every morning, I opened my cracked laptop screen and kept working. I started freelancing, small gigs at first, logos for tiny online shops, social media banners for local cafes. Clients paid little, but every project felt like oxygen. Then one day, I met Lena Ortiz, a senior creative director at a design firm. She found my portfolio through a freelance platform and sent me a message that changed everything. "Your work has soul. You're not just designing, you're storytelling. Let's talk." I still remember walking into her office, palms sweaty, wearing a blazer from a thrift store that didn't quite fit. She offered me coffee, looked at my sketches, and smiled. "You've got grit," she said. "You'll go far if you don't give up on yourself." And I didn't. Lena became my mentor, firm, honest, and fiercely supportive. Under her guidance, I learned how to pitch clients, how to own a room, how to charge what I was worth. There were long nights, countless rejections, moments I wanted to pack up and go home. But every time I touched that locket, I remembered who I was doing this for. Slowly, things began to change. My designs started gaining attention. A boutique brand hired me for a full rebranding campaign, my first real paycheck. I cried when I saw my name on the invoice. From there, word spread. Within 3 years, I was running my own small design studio, MB Creative, from a downtown office with floor-to-ceiling windows and a team that believed in me. And my family? They barely knew. On social media, I kept things simple, just a few pictures of coffee mugs and quotes about work-life balance. When Mom called, I told her I was doing okay. When Tyler texted once a year, I replied politely, nothing more. They thought I was still freelancing part-time. And honestly, I preferred it that way. Because I wasn't chasing their approval anymore. I was chasing my peace. Still, sometimes, late at night, when the city lights flickered outside my office window, I'd think about that summer by the pool, the sound of my laptop hitting the water, the look on Tyler's face, the way nobody believed in me. And I'd whisper, almost like a prayer, "Thank you for not believing. You made me unstoppable." It happened on a Thursday. I was reviewing a client pitch in my office when the front desk buzzed through. "Ms. Blake, there are 3 people here asking for you. They say they're family." Family. The word hit like static in my chest. When I stepped into the lobby, I froze. There they were, Mom, Dad, and Tyler, standing awkwardly beneath the chandelier, their eyes darting around the minimalist art-lined space like they didn't belong there. "Madison?" Mom whispered, clutching her purse like it was a lifeline. I smiled softly, polite, professional. "Hi. This is a surprise." Tyler gave a sheepish grin. "Yeah, we were in town. Thought we'd drop by." He looked different, older, heavier around the eyes, but still wearing that same smirk I remembered. The one that used to make me feel small. I led them into my office, the one with panoramic windows overlooking downtown Los Angeles. My desk gleamed with polished oak, 2 monitors, a vase of fresh tulips, and an engraved nameplate that read Madison Blake, Creative Director, MB Creative Studios. Mom's eyes widened. "You work here?" I turned, leaning against the edge of my desk. "I don't just work here, Mom. I own it." Silence. For a moment, all I could hear was the faint hum of the city below. Tyler chuckled nervously. "You're joking." I motioned to the wall behind me, a gallery of brand campaign posters with global logos, signed contracts framed like artwork. "Nope, not joking." Dad cleared his throat. "Madison, this is impressive." He said it like the word was foreign on his tongue. I smiled, calm and measured. "Thank you. It took years." Mom glanced at the sleek computer setup. "I didn't know you were doing this well. We just assumed that I'd given up." I finished for her, keeping my voice even. Tyler shifted uncomfortably. "Come on, Mads. Don't make it sound like we were rooting against you." I tilted my head slightly. "Weren't you?" He opened his mouth, then shut it again. The silence that followed was thick, almost suffocating. Finally, he muttered, "Look, about the laptop thing. I was a jerk, okay? I didn't mean to ruin your stuff. I was just being you," I interrupted softly. "Careless. Thoughtless. Always assuming I'd laugh it off." His eyes flickered down. "I was young. So was I said. But the difference is I learned." For a moment, no one spoke. The hum of the air conditioner filled the room. I took a deep breath, feeling the power of the silence, not heavy this time, but freeing. Mom stood, scanning the space again. "Madison, honey, you built all this by yourself?" I smiled faintly. "With a little help. A mentor believed in me when no one else did. The rest was just work." Her voice trembled. "We should have supported you more." "Maybe," I said, folding my arms. "But if you had, maybe I wouldn't have become this strong." Tyler finally looked up. His voice was low. "So, what now? You hate us." I walked to the window, sunlight washing over my shoulders. "No, I don't hate you, Tyler. I just stopped needing your approval." He blinked, maybe expecting anger, but I was calm, peaceful even. "You once dropped my laptop in the pool," I said quietly, turning back toward him. "But you know what? You also dropped my fear, my dependence, and my excuses with it. Everything I've built since then. It started the moment I realized I couldn't rely on you." He swallowed hard, eyes glistening, maybe guilt, maybe pride. And for the first time in years, I saw something new in his face. Respect. They sat across from me in quiet disbelief, the kind that makes even air feel heavy. I could see Tyler fidgeting with his hands, Mom trying to fill the silence with glances, and Dad avoiding my eyes completely. For years, I'd imagined this scene, but I'd always pictured it with me yelling, demanding apologies, maybe even walking out dramatically. Instead, I felt calm, in control. The version of me they once dismissed had become the woman they now couldn't quite face. I took a breath. "You said you wanted to drop by. So, tell me why now?" Mom's eyes softened. "We just wanted to see you. You don't visit much, and when you do, it feels like you're somewhere else." "I was building," I said simply. "And I needed distance to do it." Dad finally spoke, his voice rough. "We didn't mean to push you away, Madison. We thought we were helping, trying to keep you grounded." "Grounded?" I repeated with a faint smile. "That's one word for it." I sat forward, folding my hands on the desk. "If we're being honest, you all made me feel small. Every idea I had was a phase, every dream, unrealistic. You cheered for Tyler's touchdowns, but you barely glanced at my sketches. I learned to celebrate myself quietly because no one else would." Tyler exhaled. "You're right. I was an idiot." "You were young," I said. "Now you're an adult. Which means if we're going to rebuild anything, we start with honesty and effort." They all looked up. I continued, my voice even but steady. "Mom, you taught me to be polite, patient, and accommodating, but not how to say no. I need you to respect my boundaries, even when they're uncomfortable." She nodded slowly, tears in her eyes. "I can do that." "Dad," I said, turning toward him, "you always told me success was about security, stable jobs, safe choices. But I've learned it's also about trusting yourself. I need you to see that my path isn't reckless. It's mine." He swallowed, guilt flickering in his expression. "You've proven that. More than we ever imagined." Finally, I faced Tyler. "And you? I don't need another apology. What I need is effort. Respect. If you ever want to be part of my world again, show me through your actions, not your jokes." He nodded, his jaw tight. "I will. I promise." The room was still, but the silence didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt necessary, like the moment right before a new beginning. I leaned back slightly, my voice softening. "Look, I'm not angry anymore. I'm just done shrinking myself to make anyone else comfortable. You can be part of my life, but only if you meet me here, at eye level." Mom's tears spilled freely. She stood, reaching for my hand. "We'll try, Madison. We'll do better." For the first time in a long while, I believed her. The shift had happened, not loud or dramatic, but quietly, beautifully. The power wasn't about dominance anymore. It was about balance, truth, and finally being seen. A week after that meeting, the air around me felt lighter, like something invisible had finally loosened its grip. Tyler had texted me the next day. "Got a new laptop for you. Waterproof this time." I smiled at the message, not because I needed the laptop, but because for once, it wasn't a joke. Attached was a photo of him holding it by the pool, mock serious, with a note that said, "Lesson learned." I didn't reply right away. I just looked at the photo and let myself laugh, a soft, real laugh that didn't come from bitterness, but from release. Mom started calling more often, not to pry but to listen. Dad sent me a letter, handwritten, telling me how proud he was. Small steps, but genuine ones. For the first time, I felt like we were finally speaking the same emotional language. One quiet evening, I sat by my apartment window, the city glowing beneath me. My reflection stared back, older, wiser, calm. I reached up and touched the locket at my throat. Inside was a tiny folded note Grandma June had written years ago. I never opened it, afraid it might break the magic of her memory. But that night I did. The paper was faded, the handwriting shaky but steady. "The world won't always believe in you, sweetheart. But that's okay. Belief is meant to start inside." Tears welled up, soft and unashamed. Grandma had been right all along. Belief doesn't come from applause or approval. It comes from the quiet decision to keep going when no one's watching. I stood, looking out at the skyline. The same city that had once terrified me now shimmered like a reflection of my own resilience. Somewhere below, sirens wailed, and car horns blended with laughter drifting from a rooftop bar. Life, messy, loud, imperfect, moved on. And so did I. Maybe Tyler would never fully understand how deep that old wound ran. Maybe my parents would never see every night I cried, or every hour I doubted myself. But that wasn't the point anymore. The point was, I wasn't waiting to be seen. I already was. As I turned off the lights and closed my laptop, I whispered the words that had carried me this far, the same words I wished someone had told that scared 19-year-old girl by the pool. You don't need their permission to rise. You only need your own. And for the first time, the reflection staring back at me didn't look like someone proving herself. It looked like a woman who finally completely believed.